and welcome to PM Express, to that favorite hour of the day. You should be, sat back, relaxed, should have had your dinner by now, waiting to hear what topics are going to be discussed. But then what topic is bigger than the budget? And that's what we're talking about. And we have two guests in the house who understand numbers that make a nation, that build a nation. And they're going to tell us. But, I think we have gotten to, stage in our lives where when a budget is read, there should be an independent institution who are allowed to go on there to discuss it. Because if you're like me and you don't really, understand your numbers very well with regards to budget and you're listening to it, the nation is divided. One half thinks, look, this is the most useless piece of document you've ever seen. The other part thinks, look, apart from the Bible, this is the next holiest thing. And here we are stuck in the middle trying to find out, is this document useless or is it important? But somewhere in the middle is the information, and we are going to try and skim in the middle to see what actually was delivered. Was it good? Was it bad? And how does it help our happy home Ghana? My name is Nana Ansakwao, the chief of the famous little republic of Akwamu-Edumasa, and our budget is fairly simple. Couple of sheep, couple of schnapps, done. Nothing complicated. When I come back, I have people to decipher the complication. Don't move. Well, thank you very much. With me in the studio, we find him is Amban Temsa. First time my viewers and I finding him is Amban Temsa is Ato Padford, Deputy Chair, Parliamentary for Trade and Industry, and MP for Shama.
That's right.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Very good, very good. And then long lost brother who can run but can't hide, Kweku Rickett Hagen, a former Deputy Finance Minister, Honourable Member of Parliament for Cape Coast South. Yeah. Cape Coast South. Kweku, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Good. Let me start with you, Kweku. I mean, you have a huge document there. Finance Minister read through it, and generally, about 70% communication from NDC saying, look, this was a waste of time. It's not fit for purpose. It won't help the nation. But I know you're a good guy. You'll be moderate.
Always.
So I just want to get your general view of the whole document is to push employment and expand the work base. From a layman's point of view, that's what I get. This is putting policies so that people can create work. Those who already have work can expand work. Those who are unemployed can find work. Can he achieve that?
Well, thank you very much, and good evening to your viewers, and good evening to my good brother Ato. I wouldn't actually, call the budget useless. I mean, some work has gone into this, and
give it some credibility.
We have all written budgets before. We know how painful the exercise can be, but it doesn't also amount to much. I mean, probably to put it bluntly, well, let's leave it at it. It doesn't amount to much. When I was actually listening to the budget, somewhere along the line, it felt as if I was listening to the 2017 budget, which was read actually this year as well, early year because of the elections. And the reason I'm saying this is that it looks as if things have been rolled over. This government promised, the heavens, and they are yet to deliver earth. So many promises, which obviously, to be fair, they have tackled, some of them, like the free senior high school, with some challenges, and we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They're working through them, and hopefully all the kids who are sleeping in the corridors and other places will have a bed eventually to sleep on. But there are other things that they talked about. And you see, the last year budget was named the Asampa budget. And this one is called what?
Ejuma budget.
Ejuma budget. So we close one door and we open another one. the Asempa didn't come. So now the Asempa is closed. Because you ask yourself, I mean, and I want our viewers, you know, to really examine that, are you better off this year than you were the same time last year? Did you get your Asempa in the 2017 as you were promised in the 2017 budget? If that didn't happen, then this one, which is called a Juma budget, those who are listening to us, who haven't got a job today and are hoping that there's a budget that is going to give them a job, hopefully by the end of next year, we hope that when you and I sit here, and I hope it doesn't take that long before you and I meet again, but if we are to sit here this same time, God willing, next year, to review another budget, when the Ejuma budget door is closed, just as Asempa is closing, and a new name will obviously come, you will ask yourself whether you have gotten a job that you were promised. There are a number of things and figures, and you know I'm a figures person. So after they read the budget, you take your time to examine the numbers and look at where the numbers are coming from. And there are numbers in there that they are not giving credit. First of all, not giving credit where credit is due, because they have absolutely done nothing to contribute to the numbers that they are boasting about. And also, there are numbers that are actually incorrect. I wouldn't want to think that...
Okay, let me bring Atu in, and then get Atu's comments on the budget.
Sure.
And then I'll go back. So if you take us to the numbers here.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
So Atu, your comments on the budget.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andana. I think from where we all look at the whole thing is going on, where governance is a continuous business, and then we move from one level to the other level. And then I think when 2016 we're given the budget, that was to tell us the Asempa budget, there were a clear bird's eye view of where we're taking this nation to. And then that was basically the fundamental preparation to trigger the nation into business and then to work. And so we have the second budget, which is now termed as the Ejuma budget, putting Ghana back to work. For me, I think if you want to really assess things, it is based upon the numbers. And I believe in my brother, my brother Kweku also believes in the numbers. And then to assess everything, you can't just take anything from abstract, but you go back to the numbers and see it. Let me just give you a very short view of what some of the indicators were in terms of the sector performances. If you take the agricultural performances from 2015 to 2016, we saw 2.8% growth, and then you came to 2016 almost about 3%, and then 2017 we went up to 4.3. Now, look at industry, which this whole budget is all about. When you want to put people to work, it's about how you push up your industry. Now look at the indicators. From 2015, we're at negative 0.3, and then we moved to 2016, we're negative 0.5. And then you can see clearly that during all this time, Ghana was really sleeping. And if you look at from the Asempa point, that's the 2017, you can see clearly that, there was a real shift. And then that's where you find, 17.7 as an indicator of the performance.
That's a huge jump.
Yes, there's a little bit of contribution of oil, I agree. There's a little bit of, now, we've been to resolve this, power crisis. Businesses have stabilized, and then they are trying to meet up their targets. And then productivity level has just gone up. So these are main things that we
So why
check
did
up.
services drop? If everything was so fine, why did services drop? I mean, these guys will have to stay in hotels and eat in restaurants. So why did services drop?
Yes, you see, services have to draw down because it is basically the industry and then agriculture, which is the main, which would pick up the service along. And so if they are all failing, then you must know that basically the services also drop. So for me, if you look at the numbers, it's a clear indication of how the performances weren't good. And so that is a bit, you know, but as we are picking up now, you see that, you know, 2017 dropped up to 4.7. By the time that we get to the end of the year, when things have stabilized, then you see that services will be contributing to the industry and to the agricultural sector.
May I, before you land, I mean, what is it that you planted that moved agric, you know, 1.3%? I mean, could it be that you are harvesting what, you know, was planted already?
No. But if you look at, you know, 2.3 from 2015, 2.8 from 2015, and then you look at basically 2016, 3. You see, there's a very minimal this sort of thing. But if you look at the activities that, you know, we pushed in the planting for food and jobs and etc., you know, fertilizer subsidies, etc., these are triggering things, and then the right practices of agriculture.
Let me bring you in. What is it that you were not doing in agric that brought this here? But maybe you take us to your numbers.
Yes. Let's look at the numbers. And as my brother has eloquently put the GDP, you know, numbers, and to their advantage. Let's look at the GDP growth to date, or let's say half year, which is what was reported in the budget.
But you have to do it in English, or?
Yeah,
the explanation.
Yeah, I'll do it in English. I'll try and break it down. I don't want to. Yeah, I want to. I've tried to simplify it so that our viewers can understand. You know, this business sometimes can be over and above people's head, and that is also the problem why, you know, this government is able to push certain things through, thinking nobody is looking. Now, the GDP figure they've given, which is a half-year figure, which means that as at end of June figure itself is questionable. Normally, what do you do in a budget? The figure of GDP that you are going to use will be, you know, that our budget is done in November. Yeah. And basically, we take stock on a quarterly basis. So you have the first quarter, which is March ending. You have second quarter, which is June ending, which is also half year. And you have the third quarter, which is September ending. We are in November. So they couldn't come up with basically the third quarter figure, because some of their figures here are September figures. They've mixed September figures with half-year figures. So the figure they are quoting here, 7.8, is basically a half-year figure. So why is it that we don't have the September figure, which we should have by now? Because the Statistical Service would have given them this figure by now. We have gone through October, and obviously the budget is being read. But that aside, let's look at the number itself. Where is it coming from? And as he rightly pointed out, there are different things that go into this. Now, normally we segregate the GDP into non-oil GDP and oil GDP. Now, in 2016, and I want to make it fair, the GDP recorded was 3.7. When you break it down to non-oil and oil sector, the reason why we are saying that they have absolutely done nothing to contribute to this GDP, and if they have, it's very, very, very small, is that about half of this GDP comes from the increased production in the upstream in the oil and gas sector. They put it at 4%. They put the non-oil at 4%, but it's actually more than that. So even let's go with their figure of 4%. And if you look at it, they said non-oil GDP is 4%, which means that 3.8% of it is oil. Let's just take it about half, but the figure is even much better than that. This is what is called the real sector. The non-oil is the real sector. That is, if you've really done anything in the real sector. Now, let's go to 2016. Same time last year. In 2016, the non-oil sector was 5.9, which means that the real economy grew this time last year than this year. And let me give you the proof, because it's in their own report. They say we don't read, so but now we are reading. It says here, non-oil real GDP, this is their own report. Non-oil GDP grew at an estimated 4%, as at June 2017, compared to 5.9% in the same period in 2016. Where is the credit they're taking coming from? They have done nothing. And then let me give you why I say their contribution for getting this GDP comes from the oil, from their own budgets. We are reading. Sector growth performance. Industry is estimated to grow about 17.7%. As he rightly pointed, the industry growth that they are taking credit for has nothing to do with this government. Where is the one district, one factory? All the industry things they are talking about, nothing has really happened. Okay, it says here, industry is estimated to grow 17.7% at the end of 2017. So that figure itself is not, even at the end of 20, is one we will see. And it goes on to say, making it the best performing sector in terms of growth. Now, this is largely due to an increased production in upstream oil and gas. It has nothing to do with what this MPP government has done since they came to office, because they had no input in Sankofa, neither did they have any input in Tain, which is now providing 80,000 barrels a day and the 45,000 that the Sankofa is giving. The Jubilee, which was already there, was giving us our time 110. And of course, we have challenges with oil prices and so many things. So only about 600 million or so was realized, as against over $1 billion that is being realized today. So they have absolutely just to put it mildly, they have no claim on the GDP that they are talking about being 7.8, estimated to be 7.8. Now let's move on.
Could confidence in the system add to anything?
Minimal, because they themselves, why did he say this? So they themselves stated in their thing here that it is by this. I don't want to say that they did nothing. Obviously, something, but they cannot claim that they have built a single factory that has contributed to the 17% in the industry. They still have 191, what is it called, proposals, which is under viable analysis, according to the finance minister. Everything seems to be proposal. There's nothing, not a single factory. They cut sword at Ekunfi. It's now a grassland. There's nothing there. So not a single factory. So I don't see why this government wants to take credit for 17.7% in the industry. They have absolutely not contributed to it. Now let's move on. If you move on, you realize that, again, we've talked about the 17.7, which has nothing to do with them. Now you talked about the service sector, and your kingdom will do well because you picked this. You're a good king. The service sector. I mean, let's look at the 3 critical sectors that contribute to this whole thing. There are others, but let's look at services. Let's look at industry, and let's look at agriculture. Okay, they have absolutely done nothing to take any credit in the agriculture sector. Since when did they start the food plant? What do they call it?
Planting for food and jobs.
Planting for food
and jobs.
Have you done any harvest that suggests that you have actually contributed to the agriculture numbers? We recorded, and rightly so, we recorded 2.8 in 2015, and through the efforts of the NDC government, we came to 3%. And there were plans in place for the agriculture sector to be going up. So you can confidently say that the growth of 4.3 should be attributed to the previous government for the work that was done. Since your planting, so I can't even remember, they have so many names, plant for food, we will probably see that food next year, not this year. You have absolutely no credibility in claiming any credit here. Now let's go to the service sector. You said businesses are kicking, everything is going. Look, when I was an investment banker, one of the things I was taught when I go into any country is, first of all, to look at the hotel. I sit at the lobby and see how many people are coming in and out of the hotel. It tells you how the economy is doing. They also said that when you go into your room, look out of the window and see how many, scaffolders they call them, for building, those See how many of them are around your hotel. It also gives you an indication. And then go to the bar and see how much beer people are drinking.
Let me bring out to you. See how much beer is being drunk.
But let me finish on that one. Let me finish on that. Let me finish. Then we'll break the numbers. Let me finish on that service one. The service
2 minutes.
The service on the NDC, well, at this time last year was 5.7. The service on the MPP now is 4.7. So what have they added to the GDP 7.8 that they are talking about? So let's stop here on the numbers. I have more of the numbers.
Well, thank you very much. I think, Nana, it's you see, when we are dealing with numbers, we should let the numbers be meaningful to us. If you look at agriculture, as we are all discussing here, if you look at 2016 at 3%, then we ask ourselves, how did it get to 4.7? Definitely and precisely something has been done. And so we can't throw our hands in the air and say, oh, nothing has been done. No. If you look at the numbers, now look also, if you say the upstream will also be propelled by the downstream. It will be definitely prepared by the downstream. So it is not exclusively the whole upstream. And then look at the numbers. For me, I want us to correct this impression that nothing has been done at all. If nothing is done at all, you wouldn't see movement in numbers. And that is what I want my brother to understand, that no matter what he says, that there's something which has gone in there. That's the reason why we're seeing the variation in every year-to-year numbers. Now, let's talk about this industry. We realize that, this year, a lot of stability has gone on in terms of power. Making businesses be able to plan better and then run their operations successfully. If you look at 2016, if you look at industry running up on -5, we all saw what is happening to these hotels and etc. Most of them were closing down. Most of them, their operations, because of energy crisis and everything, they really were on the negative. They had to shut down. But now we come in, try and make sure that we stabilize the power system of the country, and then you see things picking up. And all these are contributing factors. If you pick up the upstream of the oil and gas industry, you will not get a total of 17.7. It is hovering roughly within almost about 14 thereabout, with the rest of the downstream and other industries. So this whole basket pushes into that 17.7%. But then let me say that, one of the key things to industry's survival and the whole everything survival is the key thing about what? Power and energy. And then so long as you try to stabilize it up, people get confidence in it, people get established, people pick up their bits of pieces in industry and they roll ahead.
You see, with this power issue, I think we got to a stage where we had now enough, power plants to generate more energy than we needed before the handover was done.
Absolutely.
But you see,
there is power came in.
Yes,
luckily it started raining. So
I remember a point in time we had an engagement with Dr. Comrade Donko. That was on the AGI platform at Royal Sanctuary thereabout, and then he really felt a pinch when we gave him the true reflection of how industry instability has been because of these power issues. Yes, that's one thing, adding the whole adding up, but one thing makes it very clear that if you're not able to run them to produce and generate, then it doesn't mean anything. If I bring a whole glass and there's no water in it, it's just a glass. Until the production and the generation of the energy comes up, stabilizes up, that's whereby you can say, yes, the add-ups now becomes more meaningful in terms of your power generation.
Let me take a quick break, and then when we come back, we'll look at the discounts that are coming in the power sector and see whether we are putting, the chicken and egg, who came first, because since the discount has come and now we are now going to plug the hole, or have we plugged the hole and the discount coming? Don't move. Well, another interesting part of the budget which excites everybody, is reduction of energy tariffs. I mean, it's like Christmas come early for everyone. Just to quote, says government in 2018 will work towards keeping the lights on at affordable rates to consumers, particularly industries and small businesses, through reform and policy intervention over a 2-year period. To give relief to the poor whose individual consumption falls in the subsidized lifeline category, but who live in a compound house, the existing 4-tier tariff classification of residential consumers will be collapsed into lifeline and non-lifeline consumers in phases. On the basis of these interventions, if government recommendations to PURC are accepted, consumers will be expected to benefit from reduction in electricity tariff expected. The expected average tariff reduction across various customer categories will be as follows. Residential, 13%. Non-residential, 13%. Special load tariff, low voltage, 13%. Special load tariff, medium voltage, 11%. Special load tariff, high voltage, 14%. And then I'm sure all those who are in the mines will be jumping and doing cartwheels. High voltage mines, 21%. Now those, I mean, they are paying in excess of, you know, hundreds of thousands and millions for energy. So I mean, 21%. You can set up another mine on that. Now come to Atu. Atu, you see, one of the reasons why, number one, as of now, we are not paying enough. So basically, ECG is saying, assuming they are producing energy at 10 cedis a kilowatt, you know, we are paying like 5 cedis. So there's always that 5 cedi deficit that we are building up. Hence, there's that 2.5 billion because we don't pay for it. That's number one. Number two, the contracts that we sign with people are sometimes, you know, neck-breaking contracts, which we have already signed and, you know, running with it, you know, whether we use their generators or not, we have to pay. So it's all factored in. So when you say you're going to now reduce it 13%, how are you going to arrive there?
Well, thank you very much. And I think there are key issues that we need to look at in terms of the power generation itself. Mm-hmm. We all know that we have the generation mix, you know, hydro, this and that. But then one of the key things that always the industrials have been trying to raise eyebrows against is the quality and then the cost of it. So
if you raise your voice a bit for
thank
us.
you. So what I'm trying to draw attention to is that in the process of generating the power itself, we must be able to look at the generation losses that, you know, which are there. One of the key things that, you know, I think we need to look out and then try to reduce those losses are the generation losses and then distribution losses. And so if we're able to cover up a little bit there and plug those holes there and then make sure that we have a efficiency in terms of our distribution and then generation, I think we will make a lot of savings there, very huge savings. That then we have always trying to see how best we reclassify these tariffs all over the globe. I don't see industrial countries that they are rather paying high tariffs as against, you know, domestic, you know, that sort of thing. So there's something that fundamentally we have not been doing right, and then I think we need to face and take the whole bull by the horn and make sure we address it. And then by this, I think we look at how we distribute this power, and then we believe that, you know, if we are able to plug all those holes, there will be some savings, and then those losses can be accumulated and transferred into.
Governments are not paying, you know, the big ministries are not paying. You go to the slum areas and the ECG guys are scared to go in there to go and collect their money. You know, so this bunch are not paying. Illegal connection they are tapping. And then some of our wires and our transformers are outdated. So, I mean, from point A to point B, so we lose even 30%.
Exactly.
So, I mean, what if you factor all these things, where are you getting these discounts from?
You see, that's why I'm saying that, you know, there are fundamental things that we are not doing right. Like you just mentioned, you know, illegal connections here and there, you know, these seepages, hemorrhages of, you know, power here and there, and etc. I think if we do the prudent things by trying to make sure that, you know, we have people really on the ground making sure that the right things are done, I think it will save, you know, a lot of losses that we incur around the place there. There are technical things that we need to put in place to correct these things, and then there are also just human normal practices that we need to make sure that we get it done so that we can streamline these things and then make some savings there. If we're able to do these things, you know, effectively, and then I believe that that is going to be touching on the management of it, then we are sure to say that yes, we can reduce all those losses and then rather reduce the cost for industry and then domestic consumption of usage of the power.
So the statement says, on the basis of these interventions, if government's recommendation to PURC are accepted,
yes,
consumers will be expected. Let me
just add a little to that point, you know, because you see, yes, we know that PURC has its mandate to determine using what, you know, the key issues, you know, from the production, etc., and that sort of, yes, but then when we know that we are making all these savings, then they will have to relook at it and then make some considerations as we have proposed to them.
You know, earlier on, when this government started, when they came into office, when they read the first budget, I wasn't sure they knew what they were doing. But not this whole budget. You asked me an earlier question. One thing in this budget that confirms to me that this government actually doesn't know what they are doing is with this tariff. First of all, this government should take no credit again for the doomsday situation. They have not added a single kilowatt of energy since they came into office.
That's incorrect. That's incorrect.
Okay.
That's incorrect.
So if they claim that they are the ones who have ended doomsday, what they are trying to do is rather to reverse the situation with this Ameri thing that they are talking about, that it was overpriced and all that, and they're going on and about it. If we lose that Ameri, we will go back to where we were. Now, let's step back a little and look at why we are in this energy, or why we were in that energy situation. It's because our utility system was heavily subsidized in the past. One of the things that Setepe did when he was a finance minister, when we were in power, if you remember, was to remove the subsidies on utilities so that we'll be able to sort of recover or get a full cost, because it was lack of investment in the power sector for many years that got us well. As the population, you know, was going up and demand was increasing, supply was not meeting up to demand. Lack of, you know, maintenance, lack of investment and all that. That is got us into where we were. And government was heavily subsidized. So by removing the subsidies, we were more or less being able to, you know, get the money back. These guys, the energy sector companies, were heavily indebted to banks and all that. That is what brought this ESLA business, which is also another subject altogether. You have gone to get this loan, which is supposed to come and clear the 10 billion or whatever that we have out there, to free this energy sector so that they can be on their feet and try to do things and invest, which is a good thing. Even though we disagree with the way the bond was cooked, we think the whole bond idea was a good thing. Now, you are doing this, we haven't even finished. You are here to get this money and pay all these people and free the energy companies and get the banks off their back and get some proper investment in. You go and do one of the popularest things you like doing, when you know there's nothing in the budget and you want to create some excitement, you go and talk about tariffs being reduced, which is not a job of even the finance minister. First of all, we have a PRC, which is an independent body that is supposed to be doing these things. If government has any recommendation, the right thing to do is to approach PURC and say, look.
Could it be that backdoor negotiations have been done and sealed, and henceforth is...
Well, what is the word? I'll go back to their budget.
Well, the word there. The word says, on the basis of these interventions.
The interventions. That
okay.
Yeah.
On the basis of
the interventions.
Okay. Yeah. It says here, if government's recommendation to PURC are accepted, they have now made the recommendation or they are about to make it. You don't come out and
is it political talk that, look, they've already met, spoken and agreed, and then they just...
First of all, Parliament is not a place to come and read PRC reduction numbers to us. It is not Parliament. We are not going to approve this. I mean, not that we are not going to. We cannot approve this. It cannot be approved by Parliament. You are to take this to PRC. They will do the technical work and do the numbers and see whether these adjustments you are talking about are actually affordable. If they are not, you have put PRC in a very difficult situation, because you've told me that I'm going to get 13%. If PRC comes and say that we can't do that, then you have passed the blame that we want to give you 13%. Is PRC who says you can't have that 13%. Such a recommendation. That's why I said they don't know what they're doing. Such a recommendation should not come to Parliament.
How watertight are these Ameri deals? Can they go back on the table and say, look, drop your rates a little bit? Is it possible?
It's possible. It's possible. It's really possible. It is Parliament which, passed that. Parliament has the power to review it again. And that's the reason why our own, Katie Hammond raised this issue in Parliament. Because it was such a bad deal that, it puts the country in one very weird corner. He said, and we must look at it very carefully.
If it can be reviewed, and I have nothing against this thing. I mean, you do a transaction, if somebody comes and and says that, look, this thing is not, you have to prove it. These international people, they are not just sitting down, you say it's too expensive and reduce it. You have to make the argument.
Apparently, our neighbors are producing energy at a cheaper rate.
Fine. I don't have any qualms about this. But this cheap politics of coming to bring reduced figures here, which are just recommendations. In my grandmother's mind in the village, these things have been reduced, and they expect to see them tomorrow.
Well, let's hear what PRC says.
And they are recommendations.
But
it's very irresponsible, even as a government, to do that. When we have set up an independent body, you put people in a corner.
Well, he says he's going to recommend
a recommendation. If you're going to recommend, you don't put it in the budget. We've written budget.
What is the budget? Budget is really planning the way forward, and these are indicators. We know what we've been working.
What indicator?
Yeah, this
is an
indicating to show the path to the future, that this is what we intend to do. We know what we've been
able to do. And I'm telling you that the finance minister, that is not his job. It is not the job of the finance minister. So you go and make the recommendation. You don't come and put it in the budget.
Okay, let's.
You are estimating things that are going to happen, not things you have recommended.
We're trying to find a good thing, and one good thing is 100,000 jobs for graduates. With the office literally set up at the Flagstaff House. President is going to supervise that. I mean, if that can be good, what else is good?
Again, I have sat on your program and other places in the past, and I talked about the 2017 budget. And I said, look, MPP government has some good policies in their budget. The problem with this government is overpromising
and under-delivering,
and unrealistic target, and they don't deliver. It is good to be ambitious, but I want my brothers in the MPP and sisters to understand that in as much as it is good to be ambitious, it is also important to be realistic. The They talk about revenue figures they are going to get and never materialize. They come about too many expenditure items. They are going to one district, one factory, one village, one dam, one this, one that. And then what do? They say we are not getting the revenue, so we are rationalizing expenditure. Means they are cutting things that you say you want to grow. How can you grow if you grow through, they say, taxation to production? It's just words. A lot of things need to happen. Taxation to production is not an event. A lot of things need to happen. It can only happen when you are realizing the monies that you are going to use to fund the expenditure. It is your expenditure program that will grow your economy. So if you can't get the money to pay, you pay salaries to people, but you can't get the money to give them goods and services, or you can't pay capital expenditure items for your growth, you will never grow. You claim that your growth is going to be 6.5%. Your growth is going to be 7.8%. You claim that your deficit will be 6.5. It is not achievable. Then you bring your deficit down. Look, they said they will achieve a deficit of 4.8.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, they have here a target of 4.8. They have here, they said they got 4.5. That's up to date. They said they are going to achieve 6.5. Now they revised it to 6.3. And I'm saying, these guys, what are they on? It looks as if there are certain things going on in the economy that they don't actually see. That's not going to happen. Let me end on the debt one. The debt is the one that I tell you that the mistake. Last year, I corrected the debt to GDP ratio. This year, I'm correcting it again. And they are doing this deliberately. They want to do USLA and they call it a corporate bond. I don't know what they think corporate bond is. USLA is not a corporate bond.
You think it's a sovereign bond?
It's a sovereign bond.
How does it become a sovereign bond?
Okay, let me explain to you.
How does it become a sovereign bond?
Let me explain to you. I have been involved with bonds for almost 30 years. Let me explain why it's a sovereign bond. A corporate bond is a bond issued by a corporation and sponsored by the same corporation, based on their balance sheet, on their assets, on their cash flows, with the asset collateralized as that if they don't pay, they will use the asset to pay. Have you ever seen a corporate bond which is issued by a corporation, but it is sponsored by a government? A slab bond was sponsored by the government of Ghana. It's in their prospectus. How can that become a corporate bond? It is a bond that should be added to the national debt. And if they do, they wouldn't come up with the 138 billion that they have. The real debt is 103.9 billion, which gives you 76% of 76%. Because you are the ESLA. Let me finish on this one. You are the ESLA 4.69 to the 2 billion that they have taken and given to GCB to take care of the UTB capital issue. If you add that alone to this one, it gives you 145.9. Before you add the other domestic debt, it will give you 153. So the 68.5 debt to GDP they are talking about is untrue. The real debt to GDP is 76%.
I think let me come in, and then maybe you speak a little bit about the 100,000 graduate employment, and then respond to it.
Okay.
That's another one.
Right. Thank you very much.
You have to do all that in 3 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. I think we were in this country when my brother Kweku's government said, they've created 1 million jobs out of the blue, very abstract, without any preparations, and then it was very difficult. It became an abstract thing. Now, when we have put this thing in our budget that we're going to do this sort of thing, and now we have really a strategic plan to do that, that is where he must watch how we're going to do it. You see, one of the key things is to make sure that, you create the employment, and then if you look at the kind of graduates that they come out and they come and idle, you better create something for them, and then rather look at the PAYEs and etc. to also bring in revenue into the system. So it's a cycle that we're going to use it to do to ensure that we empower this youth and then this graduates to make sure that we can also have revenue coming out from them. Because if you have a whole 100K of employees coming up, if you look at the PAYE components of that, you will see the kind of generation that revenue that will come into the system. So for me, it's a very, very laudable project program within the whole budget. And then we've said it very, very clear that this is the way we're going to do it. And then we've shown it out there clearly how we're going to do it.
And with regards to the numbers, let me get him to respond to the numbers. He thought that some of the figures are being hidden. Basically,
there are no figures hidden. You see, this morning, we're on the radio. We discussed with Fifi Kote, about the way the calculation, the normal calculations that we used to do, and then what he's trying to say. But then, you see, if you say that there are some numbers hidden, because if we look at from the where he's picking up that we have only taken up to September, and then the rest of the whole year's on is not in, and so the formulation is wrong. You have a cutoff point. Always you have a cutoff point, and then that is how the practice has been. You see, that's how the practice has been.
You've done your ESLA bond. You've given the 2 billion to Ghana Commercial Bank way back to save UT, which was basically government bailing those two banks under GCB, and it was done through a debt of 2 billion. Where is that money showing?
GCB did that based upon their own,
absolutely not. It came from government.
No, but I'm saying that
can you respond to the ESLA not being a sovereign bond?
It was their balance sheet that carried them up.
It is not.
Can you respond to the ESLA not being a sovereign bond?
You see, what I would say is that the structure of the whole ESLA. What he is saying is trying to mention that because because the whole guarantees are coming from government and that sort of thing. But let us look at it, critically. You have that kind of whole bond secured by itself in there. You see, so I'm saying it's secured by itself because if you look at the whole rippling effect on that sort of thing, you can't say that. Look, if anything goes bad, then it is finally the government who is going to pay.
Of course,
because
who do you think will pay for the bond?
I'm saying that
I mean, the cash flows coming in there.
I'm sure
are only going to meet when you look at.
We'll continue this conversation. It's only just started.
Ratio. The money that are going to be flowing, you will pay the interest. Who will pay the principal if they are not able to pay? Government of Ghana. Usually, when you do such bond, the proper name for the bond they've done is actually called industrial revenue bond. Where the government let me hold the collateral of the company.
Where is the collateral? Time is up, and tomorrow we'll be back to do this all over again. Thank you very, very much for watching.